Thank you for stopping by and spending a little time with this story. Before we begin, take a breath, relax, and let the world slow down for a moment. If this kind of human-centered science fiction speaks to you, please consider liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, or sharing it with someone close to you. Now, let's step into a galaxy where the Council tried to put a price on human life. And one man from Earth refused to sign the lie. The Galactic Council put a price on every human life. Daniel Mercer first noticed the smell of burned insulation in the clothing bags. The bags were lined along the temporary claims room at Eos Relay, each one sealed in clear film and tagged with a number from the Council Recovery Office. They held jackets, work gloves, pressure hoods, lunch tins, wristbands, and the small, ordinary things people carried when they believed they were coming home after a shift. Eos Relay was not a battlefield. It was not a military station or a frontier fortress. It was a civilian transfer port hanging above the pale blue curve of Vera, a quiet moon used by the Galactic Council for cargo routing between Earth and 6 intertrade systems. Thousands passed through it every day. Some wore polished diplomatic suits. Some drove freight loaders. Some cleaned corridor windows after midnight. 3 days earlier, a safety lock had failed in the biological cargo quarter. Emergency doors closed in the wrong order, venting pumps stalled, and workers were trapped between sealed decks before the station understood its own mistake. By the time Daniel Mercer arrived, the fires were out, the halls were scrubbed, and the Council had already written its first version of the dead. Daniel stood in the claims room with his coat still folded over one arm. He was not a soldier, though he carried himself with the stillness of one. He was Earth's casualty verification advocate, sent when human citizens died under foreign authority and the truth came wrapped in forms. His job was simple to describe and difficult to survive. He found the names no one wanted to count. Across the table, Director Kale Wren watched him with patient gray eyes. Wren was tall and narrow, with silver skin and a smooth voice trained for rooms where suffering was treated as a scheduling problem. Behind Wren stood 2 council clerks with flat tablets and no expression. The Council regrets every loss at Eos Relay, Wren said. We have prepared a compensation package under interstellar labor recovery standards. Earth's approval will allow funds to reach qualified families within 72 hours. Daniel looked at the clothing bags, not at Wren. Qualified families, he said. Verified claimants, Wren replied. The terms are equivalent. Daniel had heard that kind of sentence before. It sounded harmless until a family discovered that the person they loved had been moved into a category without a door. Wren placed a tablet on the table. The first page was titled Casualty Compensation Schedule. Beneath it, the names were sorted by contract tier, residency status, labor classification, and projected economic replacement value. Dr. Simon Vey appeared near the top. He had been an Earth Systems engineer with a clean contract, full hazard clearance, and a Council-approved specialist rating. His name was spelled correctly, his next of kin were listed, and his compensation estimate was high. Far below, Owen Pike appeared in a lower band. Cargo labor. Temporary, renewal. Low replacement tier. Reduced hazard eligibility. Daniel stopped scrolling when he saw the first missing space. Where is Lena Holt? He asked. One of the clerks looked down at a tablet. Wren did not. No verified casualty under that name. She worked sanitation on Deck 12. A secondary service record exists, but not a verified presence record at the incident zone. Daniel kept his voice even. She sent a message from Deck 12 16 minutes before the lock failure. Wren's expression did not change. Unverified personal transmissions cannot establish compensable death. The words settled into the room like dust. Compensable. Daniel turned the tablet toward Wren and tapped the list. This is not just a payout schedule. This decides who gets named as dead, who gets pushed into waiting, and who disappears from the first record. It decides who can be certified under Council law. Wren said, Earth may appeal individual entries after the release. After we sign, after you authorize immediate support for families already verified. There it was. The first blade, clean and bright. Sign quickly, and some families would receive help. Refuse, and Daniel would be painted as the man who held back their relief. But the money was not truly waiting on truth. It was being used to force a signature onto a list that was already wrong. Daniel had 72 hours. After that, the unverified files would be closed under emergency archive rules. Every family without a certified name would have to fight the council from Earth, one appeal at a time, for years. Daniel took the tablet. I need the raw entry logs. You have the approved list. I did not ask for the approved list. Ren's voice cooled by 1 degree. Raw logs contain non-human privacy data, station security routines, and commercial cargo records. They are not released to foreign delegates. Then I need the door logs for human work zones, meal scans, medical bans, emergency call routing, crew assignments for the last 2 shifts. You are asking to delay relief. Daniel finally looked at him. No, I'm asking why relief needs people erased before it can move. Ren held his gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded to a clerk. We will provide what is permitted. Do not mistake permitted for complete. Daniel did not answer. He had already turned back to the bags. The 4th bag in the 2nd row held a small orange cleaning badge. The name on it was half burned, but he could still read the first letter. L. He did not touch it. Not yet. Earth's temporary office at Eos Relay had been built inside an old passenger lounge. The council had left the windows covered, perhaps out of kindness, because the damaged cargo quarter floated within sight on the far side of the station ring. Daniel had the covers removed as soon as he arrived. He wanted everyone who entered the room to remember that the disaster was not a file stored somewhere else. It had happened right there. His team was small. 2 data analysts from Earth, 1 translator, 1 family liaison, and a station liaison who looked exhausted. Enough to be honest. They began with ordinary traces, not declarations, not speeches, lunch purchases, door openings, shower stall timers, oxygen mask releases, tool checkout records, medical wristband pings, and last personal messages sent over weak station service. By the 5th hour, the council list was already bleeding. 17 names had trace evidence inside or near the sealed zones, but no casualty recognition. 9 were human, for contract dependents. 3 were non-human laborers from outer systems. 1 had no homeworld listed at all. Daniel marked each human name in blue and every non-human name in gray. His mandate was Earth, but truth did not respect mandate lines. At hour 6, the screen on his desk chimed with an Earth call. The woman who appeared was in a kitchen with 1 dim light over the sink. Her hair was pinned back badly, as if she had done it while forgetting why. Her name was Mara Holt. Mr. Mercer? Yes, ma'am. I am Daniel Mercer. I am handling the EOS casualty review for Earth. They told me you might know something. He kept his face steady. I know Lena worked a service shift on Deck 12. I know she sent a message shortly before the accident. I do not yet have confirmation beyond that. Mara nodded as if she had expected less. She sent it to me. A file arrived through the secure channel. Daniel opened it. Lena's message was short. Mom, I took the extra shift. It pays more because nobody likes the late cleaning route near cargo. I will call when I am back in the bunk room. Please do not worry. A second message came 11 minutes later. Something is wrong with the doors. People are shouting below us. I'm going to ask the med station. There was no third message. Daniel read both twice. May I use these in the verification file? Use them anywhere you have to. Mara's voice almost broke but did not. They told me she was unverified. What does that mean? Daniel could have explained the council category. He could have said it meant her work record was secondary, her badge scan incomplete, her presence outside assigned route, and her claim not yet approved for payment. He had known people who hid behind explanations like that. It means the council has not admitted she was there, he said. But she was... Yes. Mara stared at him through the screen. Then why are they allowed to say she was not? Daniel heard the claims room in that question. He heard every bag lined along the wall. He heard the old language of systems that preferred the poor as numbers because numbers did not have mothers. I'm going to find out, he said. After the call ended, Daniel sat for a moment with the silence. Then he added Lena Holt to the working list as a provisional casualty, not an unverified presence. It had no legal force yet. It mattered anyway. The first fight was always over what name a person was allowed to carry. Council staff delivered partial door logs near midnight. They came stripped of commercial cargo references and non-human identifiers. Daniel expected that. What he did not expect was the shape of the missing records. The gaps were too clean. When a system failed in a disaster, it failed unevenly. It produced corrupted times, damaged routes, duplicate stamps, and broken code. This data had smooth holes around workers with weak contracts. Their meal scans existed. Their bunk assignments existed. Their routine movements existed until the accident window. Then they vanished behind a legal tag called low compensation validity. Daniel leaned back and rubbed his eyes. The phrase was not a death certification. It was not a rescue status. It was not even a clear judgment that someone had been absent. It was money language, used early enough to shape who would be seen at all. He sent a request to the council for the meaning of the tag. The answer came from Director Wren himself 5 minutes later. Low compensation validity indicates claims requiring secondary review due to incomplete contract status, disputed zone entry, or non-standard economic classification. Daniel read it once and forwarded it to his analyst, Priya Ibarra. Priya called from the next desk. They tagged them before recovery finished. Say it again. Look at the timestamps. The low validity tags were applied while emergency crews were still trying to open Section 12. They were not reviewing death records. They were sorting liability. Daniel turned toward the covered map of the station. Deck 12 was a ring of service corridors below the cargo lane. Lena's cleaning route ran along 3 emergency hatch points. Owen Pike's last scan was 20 meters from the freight lift. Simon Vey's last scan was at the engineering control pod, where his authority badge gave him full recognition. One disaster. 3 human lives. 3 different levels of human existence on paper. Daniel took out a clean sheet and wrote a sentence at the top. The system did not ask who died. It asked who was expensive to admit. He did not know yet where that sentence belonged. He only knew it was true. Before he slept, Daniel asked to see the sealed approach to Deck 12. The council guide tried to refuse on safety grounds, then walked him through 3 pressure doors after Priya reminded him that Earth had workers inside the disaster zone and the right to inspect human work areas. The corridor beyond the last door had been cleaned too well. The walls held fresh panels where scorched ones had been removed. The floor still carried faint lines from rescue sleds, but the air smelled of disinfectant and hot metal. Daniel moved slowly, reading the station through what remained. A torn glove near a service grate. A food wrapper caught under a safety rail. A line of black soot at knee height, showing where smoke had crawled before the vents reversed. The council guide spoke from behind him. The zone has been processed. Processed is not the same as understood, Daniel said. At the service corridor above the lower cargo lock, he stopped. A wall phone hung beside a manual alarm lever. The lever was sealed under transparent evidence film. Its handle was bent downward, as if someone had pulled it with both hands and more fear than strength. Daniel pictured Lena Holt there, not as a symbol, as a worker near the end of a late shift, with cleaning solvent on her sleeve and a message to her mother still waiting for a reply. She would have heard something wrong below her before the main room believed it. She would have had seconds to decide whether to keep walking or become a problem for people with cleaner uniforms. He looked down through the grated maintenance floor. Below it, emergency lights still pulsed over the cargo lock. That was where Owen Pike had gone back. Daniel could follow the marks where boots had dragged through residue toward the lift. One set turned outward. One set turned back in. Who ordered the doors closed? Daniel asked. The automated safety tree, the guide said. Who approved that tree? Council safety architecture. Installed long before Earth leased work capacity here. Long before Earth. Long before Lena. Long before Owen. That was how systems defended themselves. They became old enough that no single person felt responsible for what they did today. Daniel took photographs, logged the phone position, and recorded the view from Lena's corridor to the lower lock. When he was done, he placed one hand against the wall near the manual alarm. Not for ceremony. He only wanted to remember the distance between the lever and the place where the council said she had not been. The first survivor willing to speak met Daniel in the station chapel, not the Earth office. Tala Ven was a young medical attendant from Sale, a small moon with a long history of supplying nurses to council ports. Her skin had a faint copper sheen, and one side of her head was shaved where burned dressings had been placed. She sat near the back of the chapel with her hands folded so tightly her knuckles shook. Daniel sat 2 seats away, leaving space between them. "You asked for a human representative," he said. "I am here." Tala looked toward the small light well at the front of the room. "I did not ask for a diplomat." "Good. I am not one." That earned a thin, tired glance. "Lena Holt," she said. "You are looking for her." Daniel kept still. "Yes." She was real. The words came out hard, as if someone had told Tala otherwise too many times. "Tell me what you saw," Daniel said. Tala swallowed. "I was in Medbay 12 when the first door alarm went yellow. It should not have. Yellow means a partial seal warning. Then we heard banging below the service deck." She paused and pulled in a breath. The main control channel said no fault was confirmed. A woman from sanitation came to the corridor phone. Brown hair, orange badge, human. She said the lower doors had locked while people were still moving. Did she give her name? Lena. I remember because she said it twice. She thought the line was cutting out. She said, "This is Lena Holt, Sanitation Route 12. I have people trapped under me." Then she pulled a manual alarm. The med bay received it before main control acknowledged the failure. Daniel let the silence hold for 1 beat. "Do you have a record of that call?" Tala looked down. "A local buffer. Maybe. The central archive overwrote most of it, but med bay devices keep short safety loops. I copied one after they told me not to discuss the alarm sequence." "Who told you?" "Council recovery officers. Then a man from the compensation office. Not Director Wren. Someone older. He said mistaken testimony could damage relief for everyone." Magister Olin Voss had not yet entered the official record, but Daniel would later remember that moment as the first shadow of him. "Can you send me the buffer?" Daniel asked. Tala's shoulders tightened. "If I do, I lose my post. My family depends on that contract. I can request witness protection through Earth, but it will not be instant. Earth cannot protect me from council hiring lists." He had no easy answer. A dishonest man would have promised more. Daniel did not. "You are right," he said. "I cannot promise you there's no cost. I can promise I will not use your name without your consent." Tala closed her eyes. Lena stayed at the corridor phone after the first alarm. She was coughing. She kept asking if the workers below her could hear the release tone. She did not run. Daniel thought of the orange badge in the bag. "Why tell me now?" "Because they listed Dr. Vey as a confirmed casualty before we even found his body. He was a good man. He tried to help. But Lena was there too. Owen Pike was there too." Tala's voice sharpened. "People who clean and carry and lift were there too. If your Earth signs that list, the Council will use your signature on every poor world after this. They will say humans accepted the method. There was the wider danger. Not just one list. A precedent." Daniel stood slowly. "Then we will not sign it that way." Tala gave a bitter half-laugh. "That is what brave people say before the Council teaches them what delay costs. I know what delay costs." For the first time, a piece of his own history moved behind his voice. He had been 11 when his father died in a refinery accident outside Baltimore. The company had misspelled his father's name on the first death notice and listed him as temporary waste labor, though he had been maintenance lead for 7 years. The money had mattered. His mother had needed it. But Daniel remembered her standing at the kitchen table, refusing to sign until the name and job were corrected. He had not understood then. He did now. Tala studied him, as if she heard something in the pause. "I will send the file," she said. "Not tonight. They watch station traffic. Use the chapel maintenance relay. It is old enough to be ignored." She almost smiled. "You have done this before. Too often." By the next morning, the Council had changed strategy. They did not accuse Daniel directly. They released a statement through the Interstellar Civic Band, mild in tone and devastating in effect. "The Earth delegation has not yet authorized the prepared compensation package. Verified families may experience delays while Earth reviews disputed claims." Within an hour, Earth channels were full of anger and fear. Some families defended Daniel. Others asked why money already approved was being held up because of disputed names. A father whose son was fully recognized posted a shaking message from a hospital room, saying he needed the funds to keep his grandson housed. A widow asked why politics had entered her grief. Daniel watched the messages in the Earth office as his team fell quiet around him. Priya spoke first. "They are making you the delay." "No," Daniel said. "They are making the missing names the price of speed." "It may work. It usually does." He stepped away from the main screen and called Mara Holt again. She answered in the same kitchen. This time, there were people behind her, neighbors perhaps, sitting at the table with cups untouched. "They're saying you are holding the money," Mara said. "I'm holding a signature. The council is holding the money. That difference may not matter to people who have funeral bills." "I know." She watched him for a moment. "Do you?" The question did not offend him. It deserved an honest answer. "My father died in an industrial accident when I was a child. My mother delayed our claim because the company put the wrong name and wrong job on the form. We needed that money. I was angry at her for a long time." He paused, then finished. "Later I understood that if she had signed, the lie would have become the official truth." Mara's face softened, but only slightly. "I'm not asking you to suffer for a principle," Daniel said. "I'm asking the council to stop making families choose between help now and truth forever. I am preparing a demand for emergency support payments that do not require Earth to approve the false list." "Will they accept?" "Not unless we force them to." Mara looked away from the screen. When she came back, her eyes were wet but steady. "Then force them." That sentence traveled farther than she knew. Daniel included it, with her permission, in Earth's public reply. Not as a slogan, as a mother's plain request. By the end of the second day, the story had escaped the council's preferred frame. It was no longer only about human compensation. People on Earth began posting the names the council did not list. Some used photographs. Some used work badges. Some used voice notes and last calls. Then the first non-human message arrived. It came from Envoy Mira Thane of Carowan, a mining world near the outer rim of council labor space. Her message was formal, careful, and written as if every word had to survive being used against her. Earth's questions regarding casualty classification may have relevance to prior recovery procedures affecting Carowan workers. I request a confidential exchange with Advocate Mercer. Daniel read it twice. Then he asked Priya to search the Public Council archive for Carowan disaster claims. The results were thin. A tunnel rupture. 43 recognized casualties. An unknown number of unverified presences. Reduced payout due to irregular shift status. The same skeleton. Older. Bones. Daniel understood then why the council was moving so fast. If Earth broke the list, it would not only reopen Eos Relay. It might pull a thread running through decades of cheap labor deaths across council space. At hour 52, a sealed legal notice arrived. Daniel Mercer, representative of Earth, was summoned before the Galaxy Council chamber to explain Earth's refusal to authorize an approved recovery package and its public challenge to council compensation law. The hearing would occur in 19 hours. Wren delivered the notice in person, flanked by clerks. "This could have been handled quietly," Wren said. Daniel looked at the summons. "No, it was designed to be handled quietly. That is different. You are risking the welfare of recognized families. Then release emergency support without prejudice to the final list. Council procedure does not allow payments without certification. Change the procedure." Wren's mouth tightened. "You think public pressure rewrites law?" "No, I think law that cannot survive the names of the dead being spoken has already failed." For the first time, Wren looked less patient. "You are not being summoned as a hero, Mr. Mercer. You are being summoned as the obstacle." "Good," Daniel said. "Then everyone will know where to look." That evening, Tala Vin sent one line through the chapel maintenance relay. "They're moving me before dawn." Daniel rose from his desk, so quickly his chair struck the wall. The transfer order was listed as medical decompression review. It would move Tala from Eos Relay to a council medical barge with no Earth access and no guaranteed communications. If she went, her testimony would become rumor. Her file might remain, but a voice mattered more than a file when a system wanted to bury a human name under terms. Daniel had no authority over council staff movements, but Earth had authority over its own diplomatic transport. He called a station liaison. I need Earth's shuttle brought to Dock 4. For your departure to the hearing? For a protected witness. Council security will block that. Then make them say so on record. The next hour moved with the quiet tension of people doing legal things that powerful systems hated. Daniel filed a witness preservation notice. Priya transmitted copies to Earth. The family liaison alerted Mara Holt that Lena's witness might be silenced. The backlash reached Daniel through screens, but it did not stay there. By the second evening, Earth arranged a live family session with the delegation office. More than 200 windows filled the wall. Some people sat in hospital rooms. Some sat in cars outside temporary housing. Some had their cameras off and their names displayed in small plain letters. Daniel stood before them because hiding would have been easier, and easy things had become dangerous. A man named Peter Klein spoke first. His son had been recognized, and the family needed the money. You keep saying names, Peter said. I'm not against names, but my son's children need rent. Do I tell them their grandfather's death has to wait until your principals are satisfied? Daniel took the blow without flinching. No, you tell them the council has the money and is choosing to hold it unless Earth accepts the missing names. I am asking them to release emergency support without closing the list. And if they refuse, then I will say they refused. Publicly. With your permission, I will say your family should not have been used as leverage. Another widow spoke from a dark living room. My husband worked with Owen Pike. Owen helped him once when a loading brace snapped. My husband came home that day because Owen was there. Her voice shook. Now Owen is dead, and they put him below men who never lifted a crate. What kind of scale does that? No one answered. They all knew. Mara Holt appeared near the bottom of the wall. She had not spoken until then. I would trade any paper in the world to hear Lena's voice again, she said. But if I let them call her unverified, then the last thing the galaxy says about my daughter is that she did not count enough to be searched for properly. I cannot live with that. The session did not make everyone agree. It did something more useful. It made the pain visible in different directions. Daniel understood that a clean moral line from a distance became a barbed wire. Fence when families had bills, children, ashes, and unanswered calls. That was why the council's pressure worked. It did not need families to be cruel. It only needed them to be desperate. After the session, Daniel recorded a message for Earth. He kept it short. He asked for emergency donations to recognized and disputed families alike until council funds were released. He asked people not to turn on each other. Most of all, he asked them to keep posting names, not numbers. By morning, the words say their names began to appear under thousands of messages. Daniel had not coined the phrase. That made it stronger. It belonged to the families, not to Earth officials. Mara, in turn, posted a public message asking why the council needed to move the nurse who heard her daughter's alarm. By the time council security reached Medbay 12, the Earth delegation camera was already recording from the corridor. Tala walked out with one small bag, pale but upright. Daniel met her halfway. A council officer raised a hand. This attendant is under medical transfer. Daniel held up the witness notice. She is under Earth preservation request for the Eos Relay casualty dispute. Earth has no jurisdiction over council medical staff. Then deny the request aloud. State that the council is removing a witness before a public hearing involving the same incident. The officer hesitated. That was all Daniel needed. Tala stepped behind him. The camera kept recording. Director Wren arrived 10 minutes later, anger polished back into courtesy. This is a theatrical misuse of procedure, he said. No, Daniel answered. This is procedure being used where it can finally see daylight. Wren leaned closer. You are making enemies beyond my office. Then they should introduce themselves. Wren did not answer, but his silence had a name Daniel had not heard yet. Magister Olanvos. On the shuttle to the council chamber, Daniel reviewed the 3 human files until the names stopped being files at all. Simon Vey, who had sent a comm instruction to main control before the signal dropped. Owen Pike, who had joked in a message that over time was the only language his landlord respected. Lena Holt, who had taken a shift nobody wanted and found the first crack in a system that priced her below its notice. Tala sat across from him, hands folded around a cup she had not touched. Priya sat beside the evidence case and pretended not to watch Daniel's face. "They will try to make you angry," Priya said. "I know. They will try to make you sound like you care more about a list than living families." "I know that too." Tala looked up. "Does knowing help?" Daniel considered lying, then decided against it. "A little." The shuttle window showed the council complex growing from a silver point into a ring of white towers. Daniel had been there before for smaller disputes, but never with this much grief behind him. He thought of his mother again. She had not won much from the refinery company. A corrected notice, a corrected job title, a settlement that came late and did not fix the years after. Yet Daniel had kept the corrected paper in a folder for most of his adult life. Not because it was enough, but because the first lie had not been allowed to harden. He opened a private note and wrote one line for himself, not for the hearing. "Do not let them turn mercy into a purchase." Then he closed the note, stood as the shuttle docked, and carried the evidence case toward the chamber. The Galaxy Council chamber was built to make individuals feel temporary. It curved around a central floor in 6 rising tiers, each tier filled with delegates from worlds older than Earth's recorded governments. The walls carried no flags. The council believed flags made politics too honest. Instead, each delegation sat behind a pale column of light showing its voting seal, trade status, and treaty standing. Daniel entered through the lower gate with no escort except Talavin, Priya, Ibarra, and one Earth legal aid. Earth seal glowed small behind them, blue and white, positioned near the lower middle ring. Not the lowest, not the highest. New enough to be watched, large enough to be resented, stubborn enough to be summoned. High Arbiter Saren Vo sat at the upper center. She was broad-faced, dark-eyed, and motionless in the way of judges who believed emotion was a contamination. Director Kale. Ren stood to one side of the chamber floor. Beside him stood an older being in black formal robes, with gold rings along both hands and a face like carved ivory. Priya whispered, "That is Olin Voss." Daniel did not turn his head. "Insurance. Interplanetary Liability Reserve. He underwrites half the council's recovery system." During the hours before the summons took effect, Priya had built a map of the money behind the language. It was not easy to explain, so Daniel made her explain it twice, then a third time in words a tired listener could follow. The Council Recovery Office did not pay most large disaster claims directly. It drew from a reserve pool financed by ports, insurers, cargo firms, and member worlds. Magister Olin Voss chaired the reserve board. His office had no official power to decide who died, but his risk models told recovery offices which claims should move fast, which should be reduced, which should be delayed, and which should be pushed into appeal after the settlement. "So Voss does not erase names," Daniel had said. "Not with a pen," Priya had answered. "He designs the lanes. The recovery office follows the lanes. Then everyone says the lane made the decision." She had brought up a list of older disasters. Carowin, tunnel rupture. Olis Wast von Collapse. Namur, clinic breach. Different worlds, different years, same categories. Full recognition for high-status workers. Delayed or reduced claims for temporary labor. Unverified presence for the people most likely to have entered through side doors, extra shifts, family care routes, or informal service assignments. Daniel felt the story expand until it was almost too large to hold. Eos Relay was the wound in front of him, but behind it stood other kitchens, other mothers, and other children told that the person they loved had no standing because a form preferred them absent. "We cannot litigate 30 years of council history in one hearing," Priya had said. "No," Daniel had answered. "But we can prove Eos is not an accident in the record. It is a window." He asked for 3 examples to be prepared in reserve, not as the main argument. If he led with every world, the council would call him unfocused. If he led with Lena, Owen, and Simon, the chamber would have to face one disaster clearly. Then, when Mirathane stood, the wider pattern would not feel like a theory. It would feel like the next obvious question. That was the narrow path. Too much data would numb the room. Too little would let the council call Lena an exception. Daniel needed the exact amount of truth that could not be stepped around. Now, in the chamber, the second layer of the disaster had stepped into the light. Saren Vo opened the hearing without ceremony. This chamber is convened to address Earth's refusal to authorize the Eos Relay recovery compensation package, its public challenge to council casualty classification, and the resulting unrest across multiple labor jurisdictions. Advocate Daniel Mercer, you stand for Earth. Edo. Director Kale Wren, you stand for the Council Recovery Office. Edo. Magister Olin Voss, you stand as advisor to the Compensation Reserve. I stand for the stability of all recovery law, Voss said. That was an elegant way to say money. Saren Vo looked down at Daniel. Advocate Mercer, the council has been informed that Earth has delayed relief to verified families in pursuit of disputed claims. Do you deny this? Yes, Daniel said. Earth delayed a signature on an incomplete list. The council delayed relief by making that signature a condition of help. A faint movement passed through the chamber. Wren stepped forward. The council package includes generous compensation under established categories. Earth has objected to those categories after previously accepting council labor access. We cannot rebuild interstellar recovery law during every tragedy. You're not being asked to rebuild it during every tragedy, Daniel said. You are being asked to stop using it to erase people from this one. Saren Vo raised a hand. We will proceed with order. Director Wren, present the package summary. Wren did it well. Daniel had to admit that. Wren spoke with sincere gravity. He named the incident. He expressed sorrow. He listed compensation bands. He explained that confirmed workers with full hazard clearance would receive the highest payments. Temporary laborers with incomplete zone authorization would receive reduced benefits. Unverified presences would require later review to prevent fraudulent claims. No one hissed. No one laughed. The cruelty was too clean for that. Then Voss spoke. The recovery system exists because disasters require speed. Without classification, funds freeze. Without eligibility, fraudulent claims multiply. Without economic valuation, smaller worlds lose access to insured labor routes. His voice was calm, and that made it more dangerous. Earth's emotional objection may be understandable, but if accepted, it could collapse the very relief structure it criticizes. It was a stronger argument. Daniel felt it land. Many delegates did not love the system, but they feared chaos more than unfairness. Saren Vo turned to Daniel. You may answer. Daniel walked to the central display and placed his tablet on the reader. I will not begin with money, he said. The hearing concerns compensation, Saren Vo said. No, it concerns whether compensation law can decide who existed. He opened the first file. Dr. Simon Vey appeared on the chamber display. Middle-aged, tired eyes, kind face. His Earth contract record followed. Engineering authority. Full station clearance. Confirmed casualty. Simon Vey was an Earth systems engineer, Daniel said. He died trying to open a control route during the lock failure. The council recognized him quickly. His name is correct. His family was contacted. His value tier is high. He let that stand before he continued. Earth does not object to his recognition. He earned it. His family deserves support. He changed the display. Owen Pike appeared next. Broad shoulders. Crooked smile. Gotta go vest. A man who looked like he had said yes to too many extra shifts. Owen Pike was a cargo worker. The council placed him in a low labor category. His compensation band is less than 1/6 of Dr. Vey's. That number came from his job title, not for what he did. Daniel played a silent corridor clip. Owen Pike emerged through smoke with one arm around an injured mechanic and the other dragging a second worker by the harness. The timestamp showed he had gone. Back after his own exit route opened. Owen Pike returned to the sealed zone and brought 2 people out. Both are alive. The system priced him like replaceable labor while ignoring the courage that saved lives. The chamber was quiet now, but quiet was not victory. Daniel changed the display again. Lena Holt's badge appeared. The photo was plain and badly lit. A young woman, brown hair tied back, orange service stripe on her sleeve. Lena Holt was a sanitation worker on a secondary shift. She took extra work because she needed the money. The council did not list her as a casualty. It placed her under unverified presence. Wren spoke at once, because her assigned route did not include the lower cargo lock. Daniel nodded. That is correct. Her assigned route did not include the lower cargo lock. It included the service corridor above it, where she heard the doors fail before main control acknowledged the alarm. He played the first audio clip. Static filled the chamber. Then a young woman's voice came through, strained but clear. This is Lena Holt, Sanitation Route 12. I have people trapped under me. The lower doors closed wrong. Med station, do you hear me? No one moved. The voice continued. I'm pulling the manual alarm. Tell control to open the side hatch. They're still inside. The clip ended with a burst of coughing and signal loss. Daniel did not speak immediately. He let the chamber understand the difference between a category and a person. Then he opened the second file. This is the compensation system timestamp for Lena Holt. Her file was marked low compensation validity 17 minutes before recovery crews reach her corridor. He turned toward the council tiers. She was not excluded after investigation. She was pushed out of recognition before anyone finished looking for her. Voss rose with surprising speed. That interpretation is improper. Low validity tags are provisional financial markers, not casualty determinations. Daniel turned toward him. Then why did the provisional financial marker remove her name from the casualty list sent to Earth? Voss did not answer at once. Daniel pressed the next command. A flowchart appeared. Built from council records and reserve documents Priya had traced through 3 public procurement files. Because the compensation model places people into recognition lanes. Full lane, reduced lane, delayed lane, and exclusion lane. Those in the exclusion lane do not appear in the first casualty report. He let the chamber read the chart before he continued. They're not counted in public fatality totals. Their families do not receive immediate notice. Their claims become appeals after the settlement is signed. By then, the family has less leverage, less evidence, and less hope. Wren's jaw tightened. That system prevents false claims from overwhelming recovery efforts. It also prevents poor workers from being recognized while their families still have the power to demand answers. Sarenvo leaned forward. Advocate Mercer, be precise. Are you alleging intentional concealment of human casualties by the council? This was the edge. If Daniel overreached, they would bury him in procedure. If he softened, they would bury Lena. I am alleging that council recovery law allowed financial risk to control the first public truth of the disaster, he said. I am alleging that people with weak contracts were moved out of recognition before the search ended. His voice stayed level. I'm alleging that Earth was asked to sign that false shape of the dead so relief could be called complete. Voss spread his ringed hands. And if we accept Earth's emotional demand, every disaster claim in council space becomes unstable. Every unregistered worker, every visitor, every illegal shift, every dependent in a restricted zone may become a liability. He turned slightly, addressing the chamber more than Daniel. Ports will close. Insurers will withdraw. Labor worlds will suffer first. There it was. The threat beneath the law. Count the poor, and the system will punish the poor. Daniel looked up toward the delegation lights. That is what powerful systems always say when the cost of truth reaches them, he said. They say the weak will suffer if the strong are asked to be honest. Voss smiled faintly. A moving phrase. Not a policy. Then here is a policy. Release emergency. Support to every verified family now, without requiring Earth to approve the final casualty list. Preserve all disputed files. Publicly suspend the use of labor rank and death recognition until an independent review is complete. Wren objected. Impossible under current rules. Then your current rules are part of the harm. Sarenvo struck the chamber bar once. Order. Daniel knew he had not won yet. He had changed the room, but the council could still recess, dilute, review, and bury. Institutions were masters of surviving moral clarity. Then Envoy Mira, Thane, rose from the Carowin delegation seat. Her voice was low, but the chamber carried it. High Arbiter, Carowin requests standing in this matter. Vo turned sharply. This hearing concerns Earth. No, Mira said. This hearing concerns a casualty method used across Council labor jurisdictions. Carowin has reviewed Advocate Mercer's evidence. The same exclusion language appears in our tunnel rupture file from 9 years ago. She lifted a small slate in one hand. 43 were recognized. 26 were listed as unverified presence. Their families were denied standing after settlement. A second delegate rose. Then a third. Ren looked toward Voss. Voss looked toward Vo. For the first time, the powerful people in the room were not steering the silence. They were trapped inside it. Daniel did not smile. This was not a triumph yet. It was a door opening, and doors could still close on fingers. Vo recessed the chamber for 1 hour. During the recess, the council offered Earth a private settlement. They brought Daniel into a side room with no windows and a table polished so deeply it reflected faces like water. Ren came. Voss came. Vo did not. That told Daniel the offer was political before it was legal. Voss placed the terms in front of him. Triple compensation for all currently recognized human casualties. A special hardship fund for disputed human families. No admission of error. No release of the exclusion model. No public reading of names. Earth would agree that Eos Relay had been resolved under emergency humanitarian exception. It was more money than Daniel expected. Enough to change lives. Enough to tempt good people for good reasons. Ren spoke gently. Take it. Your families receive support. Earth appears strong. The council avoids systemic disruption. Daniel read the terms again. Lena Holt remains unverified. Her family would receive discretionary hardship support. Ren said. Not recognition. Support matters. So does truth. Voss leaned forward. Truth without structure is chaos. You are an advocate. You know this. If every sentimental exception becomes law, the recovery system fails. Daniel looked at the old being's gold rings. How many names are in your exclusion lanes? Voss gave him a smooth stare. Across council history, that is not a meaningful question. It is meaningful to their families. Most of those families are long settled. Settled is not the same as answered. Ren's patience thinned. Mr. Mercer, do not let perfect justice destroy available relief. Daniel thought of Mara Holt in her kitchen. He thought of the father in the hospital room, asking for money that should already have been released. He thought of his own mother at a table years ago, not signing a lie though hunger and bills made truth feel expensive. I will not let relief be used as a bribe against the dead, he said. Voss's voice hardened. Then the delay is yours. Daniel stood. No, the delay belongs to whoever made help conditional on a false list. Earth will say that publicly. You may regret making an enemy of the reserve, Voss said. Daniel paused at the door. Magister, you put prices on people for a living. You were already my enemy. When the chamber reconvened, Vo looked less certain than before. That did not make her kind. It made her aware of the size of the ground moving beneath her. Advocate Mercer, she said, this chamber has reviewed the materials submitted. The council acknowledges concern regarding the timing of certain compensation validity tags. However, immediate full adoption of Earth's demands would disrupt established recovery procedures across multiple jurisdictions. A careful sentence. Half a door. Daniel stood. Earth has 3 conditions before signing any final Eos Relay settlement. First, the Council will release emergency support to families without requiring acceptance of the disputed casualty list. He raised one finger, then another. Second, the Council will open the hidden recognition lanes for Eos Relay and publish the full name list. Third, the Council will remove labor rank, economic value, residency class, and contract tier from death recognition. Compensation may consider need and harm, but recognition of death cannot be priced by job category. Ren said, Earth is dictating law to the Council. No, Daniel said. Earth is refusing to put its signature on a lie. The Council can keep its law. It cannot have our consent. Voss rose. And if every member world follows this example, recovery commerce will become impossible. Mira Thane stood again. This time, she did not ask permission. If recovery commerce depends on making the poor disappear, perhaps it should become impossible. The chamber murmured. The sound grew, not loud but wide. Sarenvo struck the bar again, but the room did not settle at once. Daniel looked toward the Earth feed on the side display. Mara Holt's face appeared among many others. So did families of recognized victims, some still angry, some crying, some holding photographs. They were not united by comfort. They were united by the terrible knowledge that any one of them could have been placed in the wrong lane. Sarenvo conferred with two senior clerks. Ren remained rigid. Voss whispered into a private channel. Daniel waited. The first vote failed. Not officially, and not in the final record, but in the private poll the clerks ran before Sarenvo dared call the chamber to order. Too many major trade worlds feared the reserve collapse. Too many port authorities feared old claims. Too many delegates agreed with Daniel in their faces and with Voss in their budgets. Sarenvo announced a further review period, and the chamber almost slipped away from the moment. Daniel felt it happen. The air changed. Procedure moved in like fog. People who had been shaken began reaching for safer words. Consideration. Continuance. Technical panel. Future standards. Then Mara Holt's live feed rose on the public screen. She had not been invited to speak, but Earth had submitted family testimony as part of the record, and Priya had kept the channel active. The High Arbiter could have cut it. She did not. Mara held up Lena's corrected file in one hand and the original unverified notice in the other. "I am not a lawyer," she said. "I do not know your reserve systems. I do not know your trade laws. I know my daughter went to work, heard people in danger, and pulled an alarm." Her voice did not rise, but the whole chamber seemed to lean toward it. "Your first paper said she did not count. Your second paper says she saved lives. If both papers can come from the same government, then the problem is not my grief. The problem is your paper." The chamber did not applaud. It was not that kind of room. But no delegate could pretend the issue had become too technical to understand. Mara had reduced the whole machine to two pieces of paper and the distance between them. Sarenvo looked at the screens, then at Voss. "Magister, can the reserve release provisional support while preserving disputed claims?" Voss answered carefully. "It can, under extraordinary order, but such use was not intended for classification disputes." "That was not my question." The chamber heard the shift. Voss did too. "Yes," he said at last. "It can." Daniel knew then that the wall had cracked. Not fallen. Cracked. That was enough for the next strike. At last, the High Arbiter spoke. "The chamber orders immediate provisional support payments to all recognized Eos Relay families, without prejudice to final settlement. The chamber further orders preservation and review of all disputed Eos Relay casualty records." Daniel did not move. That was not enough. Sarenvo looked down at him, and perhaps she knew it. "The chamber will also hear the full disputed human name list, pending final verification." "Not pending final verification," Daniel said. "Read them as persons whose presence is supported by evidence and whose exclusion is disputed. Do not call them anomalies." Ren objected. Voss objected. Sarenvo raised one hand and silenced them both. For the first time, Daniel saw something like anger in her face. Not at him alone. At the mess that had reached her chamber. At the fact that procedure, her trusted instrument, had been used as a curtain. "So ordered," she said. The first clerk approached the chamber reader. Daniel had expected relief. Instead, he felt the weight grow heavier. Because now the names would come into the room, and every name would belong to someone who did not get to hear it. The clerk began with those removed from the initial human list. Lena Holt, Earth citizen, sanitation service worker, secondary shift. Evidence supports presence at Deck 12 service corridor. Emergency audio indicates she issued an early warning during the lock failure. On the Earth feed, Mara Holt covered her mouth with both hands. The clerk continued. Owen Pike, Earth citizen, Cargo worker, temporary. Corridor video indicates re-entry into smoke zone to assist trapped personnel. Daniel closed his eyes for one breath, then opened them. The names went on. A kitchen assistant who had traded shifts to earn enough for his daughter's school fee. A maintenance helper who had not yet received full hazard clearance, but had been sent into the zone anyway. A dependent spouse delivering medicine to a worker in the lower deck. A young loader whose badge had failed after the first power surge. People who had been made fragile and long before the doors trapped them. Each name changed the air. The chamber did not become warm. It did not become just, but it became less able to pretend. The reading took longer than the chamber wanted. That was part of its power. Names took time. Names interrupted schedules. Names forced every delegate to sit in the cost of a system that had preferred summaries. After the human names, Mirathane requested that the council read the non-human disputed Eos names as well. Saren Vo hesitated, and the hesitation itself was visible. Daniel did not speak for Mira. This was her ground to claim. They worked the same station, Mira said. They breathed the same smoke. If this chamber has learned anything today, it should not stop at the border of Earth. One by one, the gray entries Daniel had marked in his first review were brought into the light. A Carowin loader. A Siled. A maintenance dependent from a world Daniel had never visited. The council did not yet grant every claim, but it could no longer pretend those people were empty spaces in a spreadsheet. That mattered to Daniel more than he expected. He had come for Earth, and he would never apologize for that. But humanity's dignity did not become smaller when it made room for others. It became harder to dismiss. Earth was not demanding a private exception. Earth was forcing the council to admit a rule that should have existed before humans ever arrived at Eos Relay. When the list ended, Daniel spoke again. Earth requests that Lena Holt's warning be entered into the official cause record. Sarenvo looked to the evidence clerk. The clerk confirmed the timestamps. Entered, the High Arbiter said. Earth requests that Owen Pike's rescue actions be entered into the official casualty record. Another confirmation. Entered. Daniel looked toward Voss. Earth requests public suspension of the exclusion lane model, pending review by member worlds whose workers were affected. Voss's rings clicked softly against the table. That would trigger broad financial uncertainty. Mira, Thane, answered before Daniel could. Good. Let uncertainty finally reach the people who profited from certainty at our expense. The chamber vote did not pass unanimously. Power rarely surrenders in one clean motion, but it passed by enough. The exclusion lane model was suspended. Emergency support was released. The Eos Relay list was reopened under public record. A review council would examine prior disasters where unverified presence had been used to close claims after settlement. Finally, Saren Vo read the principle into the chamber record. No sentient life shall be denied death recognition on the basis of labor rank, economic output, residency class, or contract tier. Compensation procedures may classify payment mechanisms, but they may not classify the existence of the dead. Daniel heard the words and knew they were imperfect. Law always was. Someone would test the edges. Someone would try to build a new curtain with cleaner fabric. The fight would not end because one chamber had been forced to speak. Better language. But names that had been outside the door were now inside the record. That mattered. It mattered now, and it would matter later. For Daniel, that was the hidden measure of the day. Not whether the council sounded ashamed, and not whether commentators called Earth brave. The measure was whether one more family, somewhere far from the chamber, could point to an official record and say the system had finally stopped lying about the person they lost. After the hearing, Daniel did not go to the celebration forming outside Earth's delegation room. He walked back to the temporary office and opened the covers from the window one more time. Eos Relay's damaged ring turned slowly in the distance, work lights moving along its wounded edge. Tala Vin joined him after a while. She looked exhausted, but lighter in a way that had nothing to do with rest. Will they punish me? She asked. They may try. That is not comforting. No, Daniel said. But now they would have to do it while everyone is watching. That changes things. She nodded toward the distant cargo quarter. Lena was scared. You can hear it in the recording. Yes. I keep thinking courage should sound different. Daniel watched a repair drone flash white against the dark. It usually sounds like someone being scared and staying anyway. Tala accepted that in silence. Later, Daniel called Mara Holt. He expected tears. There were tears, but not only tears. Mara sat at the same kitchen table, with the same dim light above the sink, and held a printed copy of the corrected record. "They spelled her name right," she said. "Yes, ma'am. They wrote what she did." "They did." Mara ran one finger over the paper. "It does not bring her back." "No, but it brings her home different." Daniel had no better words than that. Daniel's official statement on Earth lasted less than 2 minutes. He stood at a plain podium in the arrival hall, still wearing the same dark suit from the hearing. Behind him were no flags except Earth's seal and a narrow screen carrying the corrected names. He did not call the outcome a victory. That word would have sounded too easy beside the families waiting for remains, records, payments, and answers. He said the council had been forced to recognize what should never have been disputed. He said emergency support would move without closing the list. He said Earth would take part in the wider review for every world affected by the same system. Then he looked into the camera and spoke to the families. Your loved ones were not categories. They were not economic units. They were not errors to be moved into a later lane. They were people. Earth knows their names, and now the council knows them too. He paused just long enough for the words to breathe. We did not delay justice to make a point. We refused to let a false point become justice. Afterward, a reporter asked if Earth had damaged its relationship with the council reserve. Daniel answered honestly, yes. The relationship had changed. It needed to. Respect built on silence was not diplomacy. It was rented obedience. That answer became the line most replayed on Earth channels, though Daniel cared less about the replay than the quiet messages that came later. A Carowan family sent a photograph of a brother lost 9 years earlier. A sale nurse sent a list of aides who had been called unverified after a clinic breach. A human child sent a drawing of Lena Holt pulling a red alarm lever while stars watched through a window. Daniel saved none of them for pride. He saved them because every system that erased people depended on exhaustion. Records were a way to resist forgetting when outrage grew tired. When the call ended, he placed the final Eos Relay casualty list beside the original council compensation schedule. The first document had arranged human beings by value. The second arranged them by truth. Dr. Simon Vey was there. Owen Pike was there. Lena Holt was there. So were the others who had almost been turned into silence. Director Wren sent one final message before Daniel left the station. The Council Recovery Office will comply with chamber orders. Future procedures remain under review. It was not an apology. Daniel had not expected one. Magister Olin Voss sent nothing. That concerned Daniel more. Men like Voss did not vanish after a loss. They recalculated. At the departure dock, Earth workers had placed a small strip of paper near the window, facing the damaged ring. On it, someone had written the disputed names by hand. No taitas, no compensations, no categories, just names. Daniel stood before it with his travel bag in one hand. Priya came up beside him. Earth wants a statement when we land. They will get one. What will you say? Daniel looked at the names. He thought about the council chamber, the private settlement, the families forced to choose between rent and truth, and the system that had treated recognition like a cost center. I will say Earth did not come to raise the price of human life, he said. Earth came to prove it was never for sale. The shuttle door opened behind him. Daniel took one last look at the handwritten list. Then he stepped aboard, carrying the corrected record home. And that was the day Earth reminded the galaxy of something simple but impossible to ignore. A human life is not a number on a form. It is not a labor rank, a contract class, or a line in a compensation table. It is a name, a family, a story, a place in the world that no system has the right to erase. Daniel Mercer did not walk into the Galactic Council to raise the price of human life. He went there to prove it was never for sale. If this story stayed with you, even for a moment, please take a second to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know, and it tells me you want more stories like this. And if you know someone who would connect with this kind of science fiction, one built on dignity, courage, and the quiet strength of humanity, please share it with them. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself, and I hope to see you again in the next story.